Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy Podcast. My name is Jed. Welcome. We are reading Socrates and Jesus, A Dialogue in Heaven. What a banger this book is. Oh my goodness. Okay, so last time we did a lot of reflection and review and what we are recognizing as the third stage in reading. Using the board, we have built up a model, and this model is that very third stage. To begin, you have to somehow, so here is the turning point in reading. This is something that Socrates points out as well. The difficulty with learning to know the self and reality, overcome your problems, and fulfill your highest purpose or destiny, the meaning of life, is that most people think they know already. So, why bother going on a hunt to discover the truth about self and reality if you already think you know what that is? Let's fix something in here. That should be a bit better. Okay. So, in other words, there are two states of ignorance. What we recognize as philosophical ignorance, or being stung. Having a question, being puzzled, being curious. And the word stung comes from Socrates explaining this in the Meno, saying, hey, it's like you're in the middle of the ocean and you've just been stung by a stingray. And you can't move, you can't talk, you're all out at sea in terms of curiosity and wonder. You realize you don't know. You realize that what you've taken for granted as something you do know, you've been making speeches about this your whole life, but then you realize all of a sudden, I can't make those great grand speeches about what I thought I knew. I don't know what to say. Open, curious, puzzled, stung. If you want to be fancy, there's a Greek word for that. Aporia. Impress your friends. Aporia. On the other side is the difficulty that we face as human beings and philosophers. We are all philosophers. We don't know it. The difference is what side of the line you're on. In other words, we are all thinking, we're all seeking truth. What? We're all seeking truth. We are all playing out a dialectical structure within our lives. We are all carrying a definition of self and reality. We're all functioning through a state of mind based on that definition. And we're all using that state of mind and functioning through it in every aspect of our life. Therefore, we're all carrying a definition about ourself in relation to ourselves. We all function through it to others, demonstrate that definition. We play out that definition, that state of mind, in all of the divisions. So here's our functioning, other to others. So self in relation to itself, self to others to others, in our relationships, in our lives, in our work, in our play. And then as a result, we come to a conclusion. As a result of all of those others, we have this other back to ourselves and we come to a conclusion. Now, normally for people, that conclusion was, see, I was right all along. There is no learning.
No one seems to be learning or growing or addressing actual problems.
Self-fulfilling prophecy, or self-sabotage, you could say. Because the difference between a philosopher and most people is that this definition of self and reality that we take is unsuspected and false. We think we know what we are. We think we know what the world is, but we're wrong. But it seems like common sense. So we are ourselves all living through the dialectic, and the dialectic is the structure of reality, or the logos. Last time we reflected on the word logos and saw that it meant the intelligible nature of reality. Intelligible is a fancy word that means you can understand it in understanding, but can also you can use it through time. So steps of reason and conversation. Formally, those are those steps we mentioned a second ago, those 4 steps, the dialectic. But you can also grasp it all at once as knowing, which is experiencing it out of time or eternally. That's what we looked at last time. The logos is the knowability or the intelligibility of reality. What are all these things on here? Let's get rid of these strange Morse code symbols. The intelligible logos can be grasped as a oneness. That's knowledge. Its parts, the intelligible parts or aspects, these things here, what we study in philosophy. Beauty itself, justice itself, whole and part, same and different. So it's completely graspable as the enlightenment experience of knowledge. But that's timeless, whereas in time, it's our highest functioning as human beings, understanding. Understanding. And the structure of that logos, or these terms that can be hierarchically arranged in order to understand, the structure of that in understanding is the dialectic. The structure of understanding. Let's throw that up there too. The logos through dialectic. Now, the premise is we're all doing that anyway. The difference is whether or not the first definition is false, causing our problems. A fundamental, unsuspected, false belief we take for granted, that's the pathologos. So while we follow the logos with the dialectic, when we are in flow, when we are doing our jobs, when we are pursuing our highest goals, so too we can be following the pathologos. Most people are stuck in problems, repeated problems that they play out to whatever degree. That's the pathologos. So we're still masters of philosophy, we're still doing the dialectic. The only difference is whether we are following the pathologos on this side, or we are following the logos. Well, let's say the self-logos. Because the intelligibility that unfolds into knowable reality out of time, and then creating our physical world in time that we can know, but through understanding, comes from the self. So that's the big turning point. Is there something you're curious about? Do you want to know the meaning of life? Do you want to know where you go when you die? Do you want to know where you were before you were born? Do you want to know what you should be doing here? Do you want to know how to help the world? Do you want to know how to help yourself? Do you want to understand human relationships? Do you want to understand beauty or justice? Do you want to reach human excellence? Do you want to be in the zone? Do you want to understand enlightenment? Do you want to have enlightenment? Any of these questions, if they grab you, can move you into the game. The noblest game of the human race, entering the human race. Another kind of question, your problems. Do you want to remove your problems? Do you want to reach your highest goals that you're blocked from? Do you want to get over those illnesses, feeling tired, having headaches? Any other kind of block that get in your way? Blocks that you haven't been able to understand. It's not a block for I lost my keys. That's not the block we're talking about. If you continuously lose your keys and you recognize it's part of a cycle or a pattern that blocks, and you recognize that it especially comes up when you are doing really well, or you're approaching your highest goals, or something really meaningful, that's the kind of problem we're curious about, because that keeps us trapped to fate. Having that kind of question can awaken you up to this game. And whatever way you go towards your excellence, answering those meaningful questions or addressing your blocks, you are following the 4 cognitive functions that Socrates has outlined here, that also reflect the high levels of love and beauty. So, in the book, we start being stung, having a question. And we've collected a bunch of questions as we are reading this book. But you have to be reading a book that reflects the self-logos. Just like if you want to learn how to get to California, you better be reading a book of American maps and not Venezuelan maps, or a book on chemistry. That's why on this channel we read books written by those who have gone through this already, masters of the logos. Socrates, Pierre Grimes, those are the big 2. There are others, of course, but those are the big ones. So from the text, you don't want to be throwing in all your garbage from your pathologos into the text. So we read by following these questions, keeping us in that stung state of mind. It's a state of mind, it's a state of being. We collect the quotes from the book. But then that's right opinion, that's stage 2. Stage 1, being puzzled or stung. 2, collecting these quotes. And 3, organizing them into dialectic structures. Those 4 parts: self to self, self to others, others to others, others back to self. You know it. And by the way, if you're new to the channel, feel free to ask questions in the chat. You can join the Discord if you want to ask questions there. Or you could go through the book from the beginning. All of the podcasts are on YouTube playlists that you can easily access. There's a link to the YouTube channel below. And that this thing here, this organizing our right opinions after following a question, prepares our mind for insight into reality itself. That's called nous, or knowledge with a capital K. And then that 5th stage, Socrates calls developing true excellence. While knowledge is the archetype or paradigm of reality and justice, the thing that you must be looking at for justice in the world or beauty in your creations, therefore every political and spiritual leader needs to have this experience and understanding. But that's the basis or starting point to develop true excellence, which leads us to the goal of knowing thyself. If this is reality, the self is the cause of reality, or ultimate reality, some people call it, the self. So that's what we did last time. We've been developing this. understanding. By piecing together our opinion, the quotes from the texts, to answer the questions we've been carrying and even give birth to new ones. Equally so, solving human problems is the same 5 categories, but addressing what's false. Being stung about a problem. I really want to get over this block I keep having. I have trouble sleeping. I have trouble concentrating on certain things. I have trouble doing this or that. And I want to remove it. Genuinely. I'm willing to do what it takes. I'm willing to sacrifice all of the false beliefs that I carry, all of the ways of being that I have been carrying that I'm used to, comfortable with. I get a nice pat on the head by my teachers and my pastors and my preachers and my imams and my mummy and my daddy. I'm willing to give up that nonsense if it's false, to become healthy, to overcome these problems. Having a question about our problems. As we move in this direction, we will notice, like as we apply ourselves to the goals that we have, we will notice negative self-talk, critical thinking, negative states of mind. These become the false opinions. As we read, we gather the true opinions of our question of the text. So too, our question of our problem, we gather false opinions. Just as we organize them together with the skill of dialectic and the diagrams that we do, the conversations that we have, the dialogues we have with our friends, so too do we organize our false opinions in the art of philosophical midwifery. Same dialectic, same questions. You are going to a friend, you are bringing with you all of your clues. The best clues are your dreams. So hopefully have a recent dream recorded and transcribed, and 2 copies printed out, one for them, one for you. If you've got a group of friends, then even better, make more copies and hand them out. Everyone benefits by being a part of this conversation or being present for this conversation. They will ask you questions, you will give answers. So you are putting together your understanding, being guided by the skill of the midwife, philosophical midwife. And of course, it's the same structure. The midwife will be asking you questions that follow the dialectic. What's your definition of your problem? And you go through, again, stages of dialectic within this category. You'll come to an insight. How does it demonstrate? Now that you have a better understanding of your problem by going through the first category, because each category you will go through the dialectic as well. So the first category is about defining your problem, definition, self to itself, the subject in relation to itself, not how it functions to others, that's demonstration. But you'll have your own definition. You'll have to give examples of it in your life. You'll reflect on it in a certain way, and then you'll come to a new conclusion, a new understanding of what's really causing your problems. This becomes the next category, demonstration. And there'll be a reflection of how it plays out in your life. Put it on the board here, actually. This is our notes from our midwifery reading. Define your problem, give some examples. Division, some from the key ideas, you'll be able to come to a conclusion. Now, you'll realize that there's a certain state of mind. What you thought was the cause of your problems was wrong. That's how you start. It's okay to be wrong. You're wanting to be wrong in this game. So there's never any punishment. That's stupid. To punish someone for being wrong is stupid and cruel. You have to be wrong to learn. And if you already knew, you wouldn't be here. So, punishment is anti-human. So you've got a new understanding or definition of your problem, a state of mind. Then you look for a demonstration of that, the most intense demonstration or the earliest in your past. The state of mind you're in that limits you not right now has a history. The tiredness or the fear or the headaches or the aches or whatever it is that gets in the way. You've had it before. What's the earliest, most intense example of it? Now, that will bring you back to where you learnt it at home. Division. Definition, new definition of a problem. Demonstration, a state of mind that you're in. These are all the questions that the midwife asks you, reflecting the dialectic. So what we're doing now is reviewing the stages of questions in midwifery to get an example of the dialectic that we're using in our reading. Excuse me. So we're wanting to learn what it means to have a definition, demonstration, division, and conclusion, because that's how we need to structure the right opinions from the text. That's understanding. And we have an example of that in midwifery that we can use. So the new definition of how your problem functions or demonstrates itself. So we've got the 4 categories: definition, demonstration, division, and conclusion. And within them, it's a dialectic as well. So it's a dialectic within each dialectic stages within each category, which is also the dialectic. It's dialectic all the way down, baby. That state of mind that you're in currently, when's the earliest you can remember feeling that state of mind? Or the most intense? When you were in that state of mind, what were the themes and family roles? So division, well, definition is, well, the definition. Demonstration is how it functions. Division is how does it function in all different ways from which you can look at repeating themes, something in common, or one particular example that encapsulates everything, or something causal. That's the puzzling part. Got all these clues. Now can you find, like Sherlock Holmes does all these clues, is there something common? All of the fingerprints are all missing a finger. That's the thing that you come up with for the conclusion. So there's a repeating theme in divisions that can shed light. Therefore, the criminal must have 4 fingers on one hand. So, what's the division in the early example of that state of mind? Family members, significant people in that early scene, and how they were relating to you, and what was your role and their role in relation to you. And the midwife will ask you to make conclusions about that based on truth and justice and beauty. Were they really doing something just? Were they really being honest? Were they really as beautiful as they appeared? So those are the questions. And as you make conclusions, you will end up with a conclusion. Your conclusions will give you a less distorted memory of your past. You've leveled up. With that less distorted view of your past, what was the conclusion of the demonstration category becomes, so it's this conclusion, G, the less distortion of the past, is also levels up. So while it played a role as the conclusion of this, finding the first or earliest demonstration where you learnt your problem, that you played out, you found defines your problem in the present, it plays a role as the conclusion of it here. It also plays a higher role as its starting point, the definition, self to itself, of the next category. What's that? The definition of the divisions. This is the starting point of the divisions in your life. This is the demonstration, this conclusion from this early scene that you've now understood with a less distorted view of your past. You've leveled up. Becomes the starting point, the definition for your life. This problem you're facing in your past started then. So, this definition of your past scene becomes the beginning of your divisions. Okay, so how does it function? Well, your past functions, remember, definition is first, demonstration or functioning is second, division is third, and conclusion is fourth. There's only 4 categories of the dialectic. Simple. The fun is looking for how it's expressed in everything. Because the dialectic is the intelligible structure of intelligibility, of the logos. It's the structure of everything. Then the fun is, whatever you're interested in, can you find these 4 categories? You're interested in music? Find them there. You're interested in cooking? Find it there. You're interested in crafts? You're interested in animation, storytelling? It's going to be here. That's the fun. But it's also a spiritual practice. So not only are you going to make the best movies, you are also preparing yourself for insight, because understanding, as we saw in that earlier model, is a preparation for insight. So it's win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win-win.
So that difficulty, state of mind, you now saw where it originated. How does it function into your present? So can you find the similarities between that past scene and the present? How are you, so these are the questions you would ask as a dialectician to your friend. How are you playing out that a similar kind of role with similar kind of dynamics from a similar state of mind in your present? That's making the connections. You're piecing it together. The connection between the past and the present. There is a hidden analogy behind our thinking. That our past early scene, our fake enlightenment scene from that origin scene, is the greater and our present is the lesser. It's an analogy. Therefore, after looking at the similarities between the past and the present, the midwife will ask questions so that you can come to a conclusion. Develop a hypothesis. Given what you've seen, what can you conclude about your problems in the present? And whether or not you need them. Or whether or not that analogy is accurate. Is the present just a shadow of the past? Or was your past scene just a bullshit thing from your family that you were trapped in as a kid and doesn't reflect the real world? Come to a conclusion. But you have to test it. Take this conclusion out into your relationships, your goals, your creations, whatever you're doing in your world, and test it. Therefore, in the division stage, it starts with a definition of the past, connect it to your present, and you apply it to reach your highest goals to have a better future. Past, present, and future is the third category. But of course, we need a conclusion as you come back to your midwife talks. What did you find out of all of your applications of your hypothesis? Was there some central theme that repeated in all of them? Maybe something causal over everything. Could it be that as you apply this understanding, you are realizing that you were carrying an unsuspected image of yourself? From your past into your present, limiting your future. And the more you understand it, the more it naturally dissolves. But you still have to reflect on it to learn. So what's the reflection? That you've been carrying a self-image that's been molded by an unsuspected false belief about yourself. When you realize that, I didn't know I had that mask, that image. But therefore, behind it, there must be a belief that I accepted as true. And therefore, when you reached that stage, again, needed experience, you need to actually apply it, risk it. Now the talks become about that self-image and belief, through which you can connect all your problems. And now you have to test it in your higher goals, becoming a midwife yourself, mastering these philosophical texts we read yourself. That will push you to surface the entirety of it and completely heal yourself, which is what we're here to do. This is the highest functioning of every single human being. Freeing yourself from an unsuspected false belief about yourself and reality, which molds the image you identify with, that creates all of your problems and injustice. But notice, now your goals have to be about supra-personal. It's not just regular goals now. To fully surface the false belief in self, you have to be rubbing it up against the truth of self and reality, the false beliefs about self and reality, the false images about self. You have to be pursuing the truth to surface the blocks. Therefore, at the fourth category of stage of philosophical midwifery, the questions are now in relation to blocks that come up with what we're doing here. Reading this kind of a book, or this book. Because what we are curious about in these books isn't everyday goals that we have been challenging and up until now in midwifery, in this side of the game. Now it has to be about suprapersonal, or the self. Not the individual self, but the self. Not your individual mind, but that mind. Not individual beautiful people that you want to connect with, but beauty itself. Which is what we do here, because that process that we just said here, being stung, having a question about those kinds of things, the self, reality, beauty, justice, etc. Reading a text so you get the right opinions, organizing them in the kind of reflections that we're doing right now, or with your friend over coffee, or most ideally, with dream analysis too as the beginning point. Dream analysis will supercharge your work. Just as all of those reflections we went through in midwifery, significant, but you can supercharge that with dreams. Same questions, but dreams will help you. So as we arrange it here, the way we're doing right now, it prepares us for insight. That insight, or nous, is about reality. Knowledge is of reality. That's the knowable experience, mind minding mind, reality knowing itself. Or ousia is the Greek word for turning about upon oneself. And we've been developing understanding along the way, so now we can apply our understanding to that experience, something we've been seeing in the text is super, super important to reach the self. So, reality and self. Necessary, you have to have your nose in a book like this, or be tuning into this channel, to surface your false beliefs about reality and self, which will necessarily rub up against them. Just as, hey, you'll never find your problems if you're not seeking your goals. Become an ICE member, become a lackey for some fascist. Become a good Christian who says his prayers and pays his taxes and never actually seeks your own goals. Actually, what we've been learning in the text, what we understand as Christian today is really a Pauline Jew. Paul, trying to unite the circumcised and those circumcised in the spirit. So modern Christianity, we've seen from this text, fascinatingly, is actually a Pauline Jew. Wow, what a good book this is. So equally so, this becomes our goals, because as we go in this direction, we have to also be going in this direction too. Surfacing our pathologos problems, surfacing the false opinions that arise when we read the text, applying that skill of understanding, the dialectic, which was what we just reviewed. That whole review on the other blackboard we just did was breaking down how the dialectic is used in conversation with someone surfacing a block or addressing the cause of their problems in the present. Whatever you're facing, whatever difficulty you're facing, if it's something that's repeating, it's not a one-off thing. You might be doing really well otherwise, but why do I have this problem? Or it might be something meaningful that you need, or something you really, really want. That's what we reviewed. The skill of the dialectic in those questions that we just went through, which ultimately lead to you surfacing the false belief of the false belief of reality and knowledge, the shadow, giving you a freedom from the false idea of reality or knowledge, what it means to be a knower, because this is what we imitate through belief. Those who are not in this game play out their life imitating this origin scene idea of belief. The injustice they suffered, they think is a mark of knowing. That's why cruelty is a point. That's why human beings have a sadism problem. That's why billionaires want to hurt people and politicians seem to delight in killing people, and no one seems to be fucking solving problems, because they've not gone through this process and they're doing unto others what was done unto them. And in the book, we saw Jesus say that's the essence of Abrahamic religions. They think they have a right to do unto others what they have suffered. And that's what God is. God is their little bitch who gets to hurt people who hurt them, gets to bless people who bless them. If you've been following the Palestinian genocide, you will see all of these Jewish people defending their genocide use that exact same statement. We will bless those who bless us, and we will crush those who do not like our Zionist views. We are the chosen people. God is on our side. Literally, word for fucking word. So, what we're seeing is behind the essence of all of these Abrahamic religions that justify the worst possible sadistic, because they enjoy the suffering. You've seen the interviews. You've seen Louis Theroux's documentary on the Jewish genociding people invading. You've seen the smiles on their faces. You've seen the Instagrams and TikToks of the Israelis cheering about how they're murdering these Palestinian people. You've seen the sadism. The cause behind the sadism is they've associated this idea of being crushed in the origin scene with what it means to be knowing, wise, loving even. In philosophical midwifery, you surface it through that reflection we've just gone through to dissolve or gain freedom from the false belief about reality. This is the way the world is. It's a dog-eat-dog world. Time of recording, there was some millionaire CEO who stole a cap from a kid at a tennis game. Some tennis player gave a kid a signed cap and the CEO stole it. And there's some backlash because what a dick. And he said something like, well, that's the reality. The reality is you get what you take. And it's a dog-eat-dog world. So the same bullshit from his family he takes to be true. The same injustice, something was taken from his as a kid, and he has a right to take from other kids, even though it's disgusting, and everyone sees it, and everyone calls him out on the internet. That's a false image of knowing. You can't simultaneously have that unjust idea of knowing and at the same time have what we're really after, true enlightenment or knowing reality. They are incompatible. They are at odds. Just as the Hellenic tradition of understanding that we are moving into is fundamentally at odds with the exact same human principle behind Abrahamic beliefs. Only Abrahamic beliefs take one more step and say, hey, it's not just me imitating the injustice and sadism that I suffered as a kid. Now I say also God is that way too. That's it. Or in the text, Socrates says, you are, pedestalizing? Sanctifying. You're sanctifying the shadows on the wall of the cave. So there's a famous cave analogy where Socrates talks about people being chained to shadows on the back wall of a cave and thinking that's real. And our purpose, the meaning of life for every single person, is to free ourselves from that bondage so we can make the journey out of the cave, A, and then B, while we're in the higher realm, journey through the higher realm to find the highest point of the real world. So it's the analogy of the cave and the outer world. This is the shadows, literally, the shadow, written right there. The shadow is that, the false images of knowing, wisdom, truth, love, from that origin scene that we carry with us in our lives, that you can only surface through the application of the dialectic in those questions in midwifery. And you can only ultimately free yourself from it if you're also reading this book, or a Balboa translation of Plato, or the midwifery book, one of these kinds of books that reflect the logos. Because its goal is the true nature of reality, knowing, and the true nature of the self, necessary to rub up against the false image of reality and the false image of yourself you've been identified with your whole life that's been causing your problems. Religion is just the sanctifying of our pathologos ignorance instead of doing our fucking job, removing it through midwifery and reading. That's it. That's the nature of religion. You put it on a business card. The quote from the text, the sanctifying of the images on the wall of the cave, the shadows on the wall of the cave. That's the definition. You can play it out or give it a demonstration, give a more apt description. It's the unsuspected, you haven't yet gone through the stages of midwifery to find that origin scene, and you haven't yet been asked the questions to reflect on that origin scene to take you to realize you are mistaking a belief of an imitated cruelty against yourself as a child. That's a belief that that's reality, that's what it means to be knowing, and so your whole life will be seeking an opportunity to crush people the same way because our soul seeks knowing. Only we've got this pretender on the throne. So we're saying we're all philosophers, we all seek knowing, only we're seeking this. False belief. It doesn't solve problems, it can only do cruelty. So therefore, the cause of human suffering in the world is just the individual pathologos and any group, be it the Abrahamic religions or MAGA or Nazi or any of that shit that just takes groups bound by belief and is not in this game, sanctifying their own particular pathologos belief about reality and seeking to play it out because they think that's what it means to be a goddamn guru. Have you seen all the gurus on YouTube? Andrew Tates and the Jordan Petersons, all of these doofuses that want to be gurus. Let me give you life advice. It started in the 80s and 90s with Tony Robbins and Oprah and all those sorts of people, passing on their own personal, Dr. Phil, their own personal beliefs, sanctifying them as if it's the word of God. Humans seek this. Only 2,000 years ago, they did it as well. And they just said, oh, it's God. That's the Abrahamic religions, sanctifying your false beliefs from childhood about what it means to be knowing, imitating the cruelty that you suffered, that your parents copied, and their parents all the way back to the cave. All the way back to caveman days. And we saw in the text that they need to do this because belief doesn't actually have a feeling. As knowledge is the highest feeling, you can't mistake it. It's everything all at once. It's the grasping out of time, the logos, the nature of self expressed through reality, the intelligible logos. There's no feeling like that in belief. So they have to compensate. So what's open to believers? Not knowledge, not understanding, both of which is needed to help people to create things. So believers can only hurt, crush, and they're imitating the cruelty that they suffered. So we live in a world where people hurt people and they love it, which is sadistic, which makes us the worst fucking species in the galaxy because we imitate the feeling of hurting people, which belief can do. We compensate that, we take that, we say that's what it means to be a knower. So I love it. Bullies like hurting people. Billionaires like starving people. MAGA like seeing people that look different than their family cry and be separated from their family and be abused in all sorts of terrible, terrible ways. Yes, human beings are the worst. Unless we go through philosophical midwifery and reading. Because if we do this, we have the opportunity to free ourselves from that deception. We're not evil. We're sadistic. We're not evil. It's not sin. You don't say, oh, by the way, the reason we have problems is because you're a savage or the devil is in your heart and you can only be killed. No. We were deceived. When we were too young to know better or to ask questions and see through the bullshit, we were deceived. We were deceived by people cosplaying the knower that we loved and were dependent upon, our parents. The drive to be a knower is so strong that since caveman times, it's been played out by tribe leader, the king priest of the house. Why king priest? Because these are the two professions in our society where you can just be a believer and you don't need knowledge, you don't need understanding. I'm the king because my beliefs are the right beliefs. Why? God says so, the divine right to rule. I'm a priest because my beliefs are the right beliefs. Why? Because God says so. Literally, the sanctifying or the turning into God, your pathologos ignorance. In our society, you can be a king or you can be a priest. Kings and clergy, politicians and clergy. Bullshit. But you can also do it as a parent. So, the drive to play out that role is the pathologos drive. It's what keeps us as zombies. but it can be understood. And at the root of it is a deception. We were deceived by someone we trusted. But if we actually go through what we're supposed to be here to do and purify ourselves from that, not only can we be free of our sadism, and our cruelty and our destruction, but along the way, we will have learnt the stages of thinking, the stages of reflection, and the skill of understanding, the dialectic. So you benefit in two ways.
It's a win-win-win-win.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
Free from your problems, and you also have a new skill. The skill is the dialectic, which can be applied in this direction too. So, we end up, through that reflection that we've just reviewed, freeing ourselves from a shadow of knowledge. By the way, if this is what it means to be knowing, and you want to be good in your life, you have a meaningful goal in your life, don't you want to be your best? You want to talk to someone? Don't you want to be your most attractive? You want to reach this goal? Don't you want to be your most knowing? Therefore, when it's something very important that we need in our life, that's when we're more likely to put on this mask. So our best efforts are in opposition to our goals. Isn't that ironic? Don't you think? Just a little bit too ironic. That's the humor in the game, I suppose. It's comedic if you can see it and you can free yourself from it. It's tragic if you don't. And this is how you free it. So, we free ourselves from that false model of what it means to be knowing and strong, the false belief about reality, and behind that is the unsuspected image of the self that we've been carrying as our mask, we've been relating to. I am this, it seems obvious, it's common sense. So we spend our life going in the wrong direction, solidifying the false image of ourselves. But if we go through this question of our problem, have a question, I don't like having this issue, whatever it is. I don't like being blocked. I don't like being scared. I don't like being tired. I don't like having this headache. I don't like having this issue that comes up. Really questions, and your approach to the question is through the logos, integrity, understanding, with someone else in the game, supercharged if you're also doing dream analysis. Then you have the opportunity to free yourself from that problem, and in the process, gain an understanding of the skill and the significance of this. After you've gone through this and you've removed this huge problem, you're left concluding, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever done. Maybe I want to get into it too. Maybe I want to share it with others too. Maybe this is needed for our whole fucking world. So you gain the benefit of freeing yourself from the problem, but also you gain the benefit of freeing yourself from a deeper false belief about reality, and ultimately any image of the self. So you gain a freedom from your problem, you gain an understanding and experience of the process, learning the dialectic, but also you gain the freedom needed to go in the other direction, what we're doing in this book, preparing ourselves by following the same steps in the other direction, questions about reality, collecting the text and right opinions, organizing it and understanding the dialectic, diagrams, dialogues, which is that skill that we looked at applied to midwifery a second ago, opening us up to preparing our mind for the vision of true reality from which we can reflect and understand and come to a conclusion about encountering the state of self. So 5 steps in cognitive development in both directions. This side is what's true, this side is what's false. This side is your excellence, this side is your healing, purification and perfection. All right. So we had a little review of how we would do it and how it relates to also reading this kind of a book. And last time, in that activity of understanding or piecing together our questions and right opinions, we came to some diagrams. One is homogeneous or universal, no particulars. It relates to just pure reasoning, allowing us to understand the 1, 2, 1, the highest state of the logos or the highest state of being, the one self, that is somehow the cause of the intelligible logos. The second state is that knowing that intelligibility all at once, that's knowledge, number 2. The third state of being is knowing the logos through time, that's the dialectic we've been talking about, number 3. So those are the 3 high states of self that have the logos in it. Then you have the next or the 4th state of self or the 4th state of being or state of mind, belief, which is no logos. It's specifically in opposition to logos. As we said, you can't have the false beliefs and the truth. They're incommensurate. You can't believe the horseshit sadism of Trump or your parents or the Abrahamic religions and also know reality. And Socrates said the same thing about Thomas. Thomas, who said, the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus' twin. Someone who thinks that human problems are caused by sexuality, he doesn't know the truth. That's crazy. He's wrong. So I know the self in reality, and I would never come to that conclusion. I got kids of my own. Obviously, it's a pathologos, not an uncommon one. So the 4th state is belief, and the 5th is strict dualism or complete disconnection or a mass of differences. You can't make any conclusion about anything. Modern Democrats, libertarians or whatever. Oh, I like this, but there's no principle. Let's compromise with the fascists. Let's bomb a few children. Let's have a few billionaires. But who's to say? Bullshit. Can't make any conclusions. You can't think. So interesting, isn't it? That, and all of which we can understand with these terms, which are themselves knowable all at once, the whole of all of the parts, completely the same, unifying everything that's different in a just, beautiful, ordered way. All of these terms together in their ultimate form is that knowing experience, the second state of mind, knowing reality as knowledge, which is out of time. The third is a connection between them, a state of being where you are empty of any self-image. So you are yourself timeless, completely transcendent, so at rest, while functioning in time or functioning in motion through the dialectic and understanding. That's the third highest state of mind, understanding. So it's these connected together most intelligently and caringly, true love and logos. The 4th, belief, is an opposition or conflict, to be in conflict within your soul, which means to be in conflict between the logos, because the soul is the logos. It's that which apprehends the logos, and in that timeless experience, you are the same as it. Mind. Your mind is in conflict. Mind is logos. So logos in conflict with itself. And then the 5th, when you are raised in a pathologos or raised in an Abrahamic religion, and you just leave it without learning the logos, without doing midwifery and reading these books, spam, then you become disconnected between them. You are only a part. There is no whole. There is no paradigm of justice that we must insist for every politician to have. There is no way we can all be the same. We need to have class divisions and have some people that we enslave or some people that we genocide. We can't all be free. So all of these are not, you can't have any of that. Never at rest. No principles that are timeless. No freedom. No likeness in our states of mind. No sameness and value of the self. No whole of humanity. That's the 5th state of logos. Disconnection. So disconnection, conflict, intelligent harmony, all at once. And then the highest state of mind, that which has the logos inherent, everything that will follow in a higher, more transcendent way that is somehow pure and clear, transcending all experience, the pure awareness that has all the experience and also causes all experience. That's what we're after. That's what it means to know thyself. Without this, the game you're in is empty. Not philosophy. It's not meaningful. Know thyself. That first state of self is the ultimate goal. Giving us what we need to go through midwifery or purification, because the final stage of removing your pathologos ignorance by collecting your false opinions as you read and approach your goals in a relationship with someone else in the game, learning to ask questions, creating a freedom from the false image of reality, the false beliefs of reality, the false shadow of what it means to be knowing and loving, to ultimately removing the false image of the self. You can't be doing if you're not seeking to know the self, because this image of the self, your mask you don't even know you're carrying, will rub up against know thyself. So there we have the 5 cognitive functions in both directions. Putting in one simple diagram that you can tell your friends about over coffee. Cheers. Is the activity, the human activity. That's what we're here for. And that can be represented as this diagram, which is homogeneous, which means there's no particulars. It can be applied to anyone and anything. Homogeneous. Like milk. Homogenized milk. All the same. I don't know what they use that for milk about, but homogeneous model. In other words, there's no particulars. There's no reference to a person or a culture or a historical figure. There's no opinions. It's just pure reason. In fact, it's the building blocks of reason itself. Whole, part, same, different. Everything that you perceive and think contains these. You can't not. That's what it is. That's the logos. The experienceability, the intelligibility, the rationality of experience itself. If there wasn't something keeping this coffee mug as a whole of parts, it would fall apart and there would be no coffee to drink. If this coffee wasn't the same as other cups, but different in that it has coffee in it, then I wouldn't know what cup to drink from. See, you have fun with this. It applies to everything. It's lots and lots of fun.
Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy? Where's the childlike wonder, dude?
Childlike wonder, dude. Homogeneous. Very different from just rocking up to somebody's chat room and saying, well, I think that Jesus is actually doing this, and then tomorrow Jesus is going to say, because in the book of Exodus, Jesus said this, but I think it's the time of the end times. That's just all your opinions, dude. This is just reasoning. This applies to everyone. And the fact that we have these categories of reason gives rise to their ordering in beauty. Their hierarchical structure and necessity, justice. Allowing us to make sense of the highest experiences humans have had. Many people have had it. Near-death experiences, meditation experiences, drug experiences, traumatic experiences, childbirth experience. People have had this experience and they talk about it in the same language. Well, they do, but of course, they might lack the language themselves. They'll use their own way of saying it, but the same aspects, pure reason, graspable, making sense of the highest experience. Also making sense of our highest functioning and understanding. Wouldn't our highest functioning as human beings be these 10 things? It's not an opinion. Wouldn't our highest functioning be to remove the cause of all human problems and suffering? Wouldn't that be up there? Probably number one? Right? Isn't it great that we can have a broken arm and go to the doctor and fix our arm? Isn't that a thing that we all value always, forever? But this is the soul. And wouldn't up there as equal to number one or number two be using that freedom from illness of the soul to reach your excellence? Hey, you've got 2 arms that work, but you're still not in the tip-top shape. You need to play a sport or personal training or something. Get excellence. Just because you're healthy doesn't mean you're LeBron James. LeBron James. So, by definition, not opinion, the activity, understanding, dialectic, dianoia is the Greek word for understanding, is the highest skill, or as it provides benefit, we give it the term art. In the Greek, art means benefit, the subject. The highest skill or art, removing problems in these 5 movements, using the skill of midwifery, and these movements using the skill of same thing, dialectic. Therefore, the highest functioning in time is understanding, dialectic. The highest experience outside of time is knowledge. The highest state is what is the cause of both, the self. The cause of conflict is to be either a believer, which means you're in conflict between these between these aspects that are used in understanding in the highest possible activities we just mentioned, that are grasped all at once in the highest possible experience. You're in conflict between them in belief, or if you leave belief without reclaiming logos and understanding, or ousia, you're a mass of differences. Strict duality. Never the twain shall meet. We are only a small being. We can never unite with the whole. We are always different. We can never come together as the same. We are always limited. We can never be free. We are always in time. We can never experience the timeless, etc. That's the fun. The more terms you get in this list, the more you can have fun understanding the cause of human problems, either as a belief in conflict or those who've left without understanding that are strict disconnection, small beings, or have fun talking about what it means to function most highly, connecting the two in the best possible way, or understand enlightenment, connecting the two in the ultimate way, all at once. You can demystify mysticism. That's what enlightenment experience is. Now, there is a higher enlightenment experience which requires you to have this and understanding, the two together we call wisdom, so you can reflect on what must have caused that. So that's an enlightenment experience that isn't open to a lot of people because it requires, even ancient spiritual traditions, because it requires understanding to reflect on it. So this model is homogeneous. All of the words here are pure reason. Will apply always to everyone. For example, what we are doing in the text is applying this state of being, the fourth state of mind, conflict, as Abrahamic religions, because they're the ones in control of our world right now. They're the ones with the most influence: Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. They're the ones causing all the complete destruction and suffering. They're seeking suffering. They want the end of the world because Paul says in his lifetime, so it's already past the expiry date, but nevertheless, still a conflict, so still attractive to believers. They are seeking Armageddon, a lot of them. Call a anti-reality death cult is the term elephant graveyard used to describe this way of being that's infecting our world. I recommend that video, Elephant Graveyard, how a anti-reality death cult has taken over comedy. So very interesting, because one of the issues in this book is the difficulty talking about this is no one wants to learn. They'd rather be entertained. That's why I have an average of less than... I keep complaining about how little Twitch viewers I get, but I'm going to stop doing that. It's getting a bit silly now. I don't get a lot of viewers, but it's because it's just teaching. I'm not very entertaining. Even though I have soundboards that say things like this.
Do a poggers.
More holes, the better. Too stupid to understand. That's weird.
See? Not as entertaining as a video game, of course, so, you know. But yeah, Elephant Graveyards, how a anti-reality death cult took over comedy. It's a good video on YouTube. Gets close to understanding without what we've got here, so worth a watch. It's entertaining and informative. So we can apply it to Joe Rogan's bro sphere of comedy bullies and thugs. We can apply it to the Abrahamic religions. But we could apply it to any alien species we encounter, or any dimension we're in, or any new culture that will come to light in the past or in the future. We can understand all of it. We don't have to have Christianity 2.0. Founded by Elon Musk, where we all worship Elon Musk as the savior and give him all of our money. We're doing it now, but anyway. Because homogeneous. Because it doesn't have the specifics, it's just pure reason. It's pure categories of reason. You can apply it to anyone. Let's just get these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things. Maybe some other ones, like with contained within itself, within another. Beginning, middle, and end, you could put in there maybe. There are some other ones. By the way, you can find them all in the Parmenides, the greatest book never read. And there's a Balboa translation, so you can actually read it properly for the first time in 2,000 years. Wow.
Wow.
Parmenides has fun playing with these ideas to give all possible ways of being. But we've got this one here. To be in conflict with what it means to be a believer, or Abrahamic, or pathologos. Always. That's the significance of homogeneous. But heterogeneous means to apply it to specifics. Homogeneous forest, heterogeneous trees. I don't know if that's a good analogy. So we have this model here that we looked at last time, applying it to specifics. So the specifics is, well, hang on a second. How about mankind? What are the highest, most meaningful specifics of humankind? What's the purpose of mankind? How do we evolve? Isn't evolution important? Okay. How do we develop? Isn't personal development and learning great? And by the way, what's enlightenment? So if we find the greatest heterogeneous or specific activities, can we put it all on one scale? The answer is yes, we have. From belief-based cognitive functioning to understanding, that takes from savages to sages, from zombies to human beings, to cavemen idiots who are going to end our species, to potential ambassadors for all life in the galaxy if we pull this stunt off and we do what we're here to do. If we don't, then we go extinct. So what are the human activities that are heterogeneous or specific? Well, how do we do this? How do we respond to new truth? We're supposed to learn. Human beings are not open to learning a lot of the time. So in other words, the continuum from belief-based functioning along to understanding-based cognitive functioning is evolution. We're not growing wings, we're evolving cognitively into higher dimensions of reality and higher uses of reason itself. Not using reason to hurt people as believers do, not using reason to manipulate people against their own interests so you can extract profit from them, feed more children into the children crushing machine so you can get a few pennies more at the end of the financial quarter. Fucking disgusting shit. That's not how we use it. We're evolving into understanding. Evolution. Our purpose isn't to hurt people and be cruel. Our purpose is to understand and learn. Development, enlightenment, so on, so on. All of it. A single continuum from belief to understanding. The exact same continuum represents savages to sages, zombies to humans, cavemen to alien leaders, cosmic sages, cosmic guides. It's also the same continuum, it's the same line. How we respond to truth. Wouldn't it be great if you could just learn? Why do some people, like MAGA, why are they so violently opposed to truth and reason? Why do some friends we know, some people we know, some content creators we know, why do they get into a certain state where they are completely blind to evidence and reason? And when you try and present evidence and reason that would fucking help them, they get pissed and they try and sue you or attack you or try and crush you or send their followers out to criticize you. Send the zombies and they can only use one sentence because that's what zombies are. They can only use language limitedly. You suck. Or my friend is awesome. That's it. How we respond to truth and rationality on the same continuum. Believers, MAGA, Christians, Abrahamics, followers of some personality are going to reject reason, reject the new, and fiercely loyal to the old, whereas the more rational, self-reflective people can let go of old beliefs and fully embrace new reason and understanding. Same continuum. Our goals, same continuum. How we understand our way of being. Are you in internal conflict, in opposition, in addiction to harm to compensate for knowledge? Are you sadistic and internal conflict? Well, then you're a believer. Someone who likes to understand, they are more caring. They enjoy helping people. They enjoy understanding. Believers hate understanding. They fucking hate understanding. The bullies beat up on the smart kid. The fascists target the intellectuals. They're only doing harm. Believers only do harm. Understanding can help things, can solve problems, can create excellence, and also awakens empathy. The ability to do artful benefit. How we function, how we can grasp knowledge, how we can understand enlightenment, how well we can understand and explain the cause of human problems, how well we value dream analysis. So all of the specifics, or the heterogeneous, the trees in the forest, can also be put on this model, which is the same continuum. So we have a model that's homogeneous, that can be applied to anyone, anywhere. And we can have the heterogeneous, which applies to all the specifics of humanity. That's important. Now we can represent the two with an analogy. Analogy is a mathematical or proportional representation that can be applied to both. So we talked about the ideal loving relationships being a masculine and feminine energy that can come together. You can look at your differences, celebrate the differences, explore the differences through understanding with a shared model. Otherwise, you'll just try and make the other person like your mummy and daddy. You will try and force your pathologos ignorance and suffering on the other person. That's the cause of conflict. But if you have a third person in the relationship, Zeus or Apollo, or the self, the state of self that transcends the individuals, beauty itself, you can go through an ideal loving relationship, love and logos, from the many to the one. which can be represented through analogy. Because as we look at, by the way, 5 states of mind in this model, right? Just like five states of cognition in our learning, 5 states of cognition in our midwifery, with the 5th one standing separate, transcendent, the cause of all that follows. The 5th one standing transcendent. And our states of mind. 5 types of state of mind. The massive differences, believers, which are strictly disconnected from anything whole, believers that are in conflict, understanders that are in harmony between the whole and parts, the transcendent and the time, and out of time and in time, the experience of it all at once. And the 5th stands apart, transcendent, in that it's not even an experience, it's not even a state of mind, it's the cause of mind. So here we have the 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 with 1 transcendent. Or the dialectic, 1, 2, 3, 4, with something outside necessarily to give rise to the dialectic itself. So our homogeneous model also reflects the dialectic, which we've just said is the structure of logos, or the structure of intelligibility, or the structure of consciousness, reality, mind. The dialectic. And those 5 states also in that model of development. Either in having a question about your problems or having a question about truth. Now, speaking of 4 things with a mysterious 5th sitting above it as the highest, here we have 4 kinds of mean analogies, which should give you a question about what the 5th could be. But the way to understand those different states of mind, or to understand our heterogeneous movement from belief-based cognition to understanding as a way of being, if there are stages of development, you have to understand, well, how do those stages relate to each other? Let's say there are 10 stages. Is stage 8 double as good as stage 4? Or is it exponentially better? Is stage 8 80 times more powerful, or 800 times more powerful than stage 4? Does it move linearly? Every stage is just like this? Or is it every stage is so much better than the previous that it's like this? Exponential. Like that. Or is it like this? Or is it somewhere in the middle? This straight line is called arithmetic ratio. This 1 to 2 from here, oops, that's a 3. 1 to 2 is the same as 2 to 3. Straight line. 1, 2, 3. That's called an arithmetic mean analogy. 1 is to 2 as 2 is to 3. That's this one here. 1 is to 2 as 2 is to 3. Now, the 4 kinds of mean analogies we have on the board. They can mathematically or proportionally explain the divisions between the homogeneous and the heterogeneous model. Pure reason and all of human activities. significant ones. And we have a feminine and masculine representation. 1:2 is 2:3 is like saying 2:3 as 3:4, only with a odd number makes it masculine and a feminine, an even number makes a feminine, representing the duality in human experience, representing the duality between rationality itself. So within this model, it contains the purely mathematical and the archetype or the highest expression of the heterogeneous. In other words, feminine and masculine, isn't that what happens in human experience? In relationships? So we haven't really gotten into that in the book yet, but as a brief overview, we have these 3 kinds of mean analogies that we looked at last time, and the golden analogy, which is what we were aiming for, because the golden analogy is not just a 3-term analogy, it's a 2-term mean analogy, because we double up A is to B as B is to A plus B. So we can represent relationships or movement or functioning or being a mean analogy, like as Diotima taught Socrates, so too Socrates teaches us. As we go through midwifery, if we go through it properly, so too will we be a midwife to others. But the golden analogy only has 2 terms, which might even represent the ideal of human relationships, because as you explore your differences in a love and logos relationship with your beloved, there's a possibility of unifying ultimately in the experience of beauty itself. Pure unity, everything that we express through romantic sentiment. I want to join with you completely. Can't do it in the physical world, can do it in the world of reality. So this represents mathematically the experience of pure beauty or knowledge. Ousia. Mind knowing itself completely. Can't do it in the physical world. Can do it when you're out of the physical world. Maybe with your beloved too. Something to explore. Romantic sentiment is pointing to this. I want to join with you completely. Well, you better be into philosophy, pal. I want to join with you forever until the stars fall out of the sky. Forever? Timeless? Eternity? Oh, you're talking about that cognitive functioning called knowing logos as being or beauty itself. Love seeks beauty itself. And as humans, we are going through a learning process that you can go through with someone. So, interesting, isn't it, that we've had 4 different states of mind, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a mysterious 5th above it. And here we have 4 mean analogies, and the 4th state of mind, pure knowledge, or the second highest, is what is represented by the golden analogy. Isn't that interesting? And the reason why we got all the way to the golden analogy is it's incommensurate in principle. In other words, this number here doesn't fit with regular numbers. It's one of those numbers that is imaginary or irrational. 6.184 goes on forever. And so it has a special thing like pi. You might know pi from drawing circles. That's another one of these magical numbers. But they're incommensurate. You can't have this divide equally into a single number like 1. So the golden analogy, that's why when you start doing film or photography or something, they talk about the rule of thirds. They say if you've got a shot Here's your shot. Divide it in thirds. And have here your person. It's more suiting, it's more pleasing to our eye or something. Well, I say it because it's easier to divide it into thirds, but then when you get to the second year of film or photography, they say actually it's not thirds. It's actually not 66%, it's 61%. So not all the way over here, take it in a little bit here to have the person there. The golden ratio. It is what we intuitively recognize as most appealing because, as we said, we're all philosophers. We all seek knowledge. We intuitively recognize beauty in the physical world. We want justice in our physical world. We've never seen justice itself. We've never seen beauty itself. Never seen knowledge itself, but we seek it so much that we can even play out our false idea of knowledge sadistically as the pathologos, or sanctified in religion as the Abrahamic religions, to the point where we want to end the world so Jesus comes back or some bullshit. Or end the world because Elon Musk was bullied, or Peter Thiel was a nerd and bullied as a kid. So we seek it, which is why the mathematical understanding of the brilliant light of being is so intuitively appealing to us that you get taught it when you do film or photography. But its principle is incommensurate, meaning, which is the reason why we got to this, it explains the homogeneous and heterogeneous, because each of these stages of being isn't a continuum. It's a jump, a leap, or a letting go. I like leap because it takes jump as well as letting go. Imagine jumping off. This is an analogy Pierre gave a few times. Imagine you've learnt surfing your whole life, but you've never jumped into the water. And here you are standing on the side of a cliff and the waves are perfect below and you've got your surfboard in hand. There comes a point you've got to leap off that cliff and let go and fall into the water. So I like leap. Normally they say jump or letting go, but I think leap can have both in that analogy. There's a leap from being a mass to a believer, or from being a believer into a mass. But when you see the significance of this as a way of being, it's going to be different than how you grew up. Letting go of your mask in midwifery, letting go of your beliefs in midwifery, practicing this as a way of being, understanding, or knowledge. They're all leaps. They're completely different dimensions, completely different cognitive functions, as different as seeing sight with your eyes is to hearing sound with your ears. Different things. Incommensurate. Someone said, how many liters of the marathon did you run today? You go, what, are you crazy? Don't you mean miles? Miles and liters are incommensurate. You can't ask how many liters of the race. Incommensurate. The golden ratio represents in our homogeneous model that applies to everyone for always, the jumps from one state of mind to another, but also in our heterogeneous model, even though this is a continuum, there are going to be people more open to understanding than belief. There are going to be people who respond more favorably to new ideas. You got a problem? Here is how you address your problem. Reflect on your beliefs. How does that state of mind play a role in your life now? Does it have a past? When's the earliest time you can remember it? How does it play out in your relationships? In that origin scene. Now connect it to the present. Come to some conclusions. Put it in experience. At every stage of midwifery requires a leap. And then once you do it, you realize, holy crap, the thing that was limiting me wasn't what I thought was my problems, wasn't a physical problem, wasn't that I wasn't drinking enough water, or I don't know, I wasn't following Joe Rogan's guru bro sphere bullshit. I wasn't getting up at 4 a.m. and having an ice bath. No. It was an idea. Our problems are caused by what we carry in our mind. Ultimately, an image of the self. But you don't replace your image of yourself with a better one. It's not positive thinking crap. It's a removal, a letting go, a leap. But hearing that, there are some people who are more closely zombies or cavemen, more closely belief-based functioning, that will completely reject all of that. Puh, carry in your mind. I like that thug on Joe Rogan who says getting up at 4 a.m. and doing 100 push-ups and then doing a cold ice bath and then day trading and turning a 10K into 100K. Yes, you got to 10x your worth by day trading. Yes, that's what causes problems, bro. They are going to be completely stupid and respond to new truth and rationality in a belief-based way or a savage caveman way or a zombie way, and completely reject the new and fiercely loyal to their old bullshit. But people who are more reflective, more open-minded, more curious, who have themselves seen the value of understanding in their own life, seen how them wanting to understand things makes them better. It's not how much money or how many muscles they have. How many? It's the fact that they like to reflect with reason on causes, and they are seeing the causes aren't physical, they are ideas that human beings play out in various ways. Then they are going to be more open to the idea that the causes of their problems or blocks or even physical ailments are non-physical ideas, cognition. So they are going to be further along this line and more open to it than a Joe Rogan thug or a MAGA thug or an Abrahamic caveman. They're going to be more open to it because they are more human, they're more in harmony with reality, they're more understanding, they're more love logos, love reason, they're more open, free, more clear, they are closer to the timeless, they are more beneficial in their world, they are closer to seeing the value of dreams, but even then, they still won't do it. I have been in this game for many, many years, and I have seen this time and time and time and time again.
Wow!
It is true. The more rational and the more along your evolutionary movement from belief to understanding, the more open you are to thinking about these things. The more willing you are to engage in a dialogue rather than spewing opinions on each other or debates. But you still won't do it. Make the most convincing argument in the whole fucking world. Show it from a text from Socrates himself. Provide it in a model that's homogeneous, that is just pure reason. Apply it to all the heterogeneous models, and even give it an analogical representation that applies to both. You can't do better than that. It still won't fucking work. Unless you jump. You take a leap. Not a leap of faith, a leap of reason. Why? Because, hey, while the movement from belief-based cognitive function to understanding will be represented on this continuum that will also represent how open you are to reasoned reflection on the causes of the problems that you're facing, whatever they may be. You're going to be more open to it. You're not going to completely shut it down like some idiot. And you know, if you're watching this on YouTube and Twitch, you can see this. There are some Twitch streamers who are like, oh, I don't like talking about anything contentious. No religion or politics, no thinking aloud. But then there are people who actually address political ideas, or like reflection, or want to learn, or learn from their chat, or ask questions, or even the best, demand that their chat follow their questions and answer questions so you can together bring people along to reason and understanding and growth. You can find them on anything in the world, on Twitch, on YouTube. But to do it, to actually do what we have been saying, requires a jump. Requires a letting go of what was old. I'm not the sort of person who remembers my dreams. I'm not the sort of person who challenges my family way of being. I'm not the sort of person who's ever going to question, dear mummy, my mummy was a saint and my daddy was the best. Everyone thinks that at first. That's what it means to be human. It's not a blame game. It's not unusual. That's why yo mama jokes are universal. It's a trope in film. Don't you question my parents, I'll beat you up. Would you respond the same way to the next door neighbor's parents? Don't you challenge the guys across the street? They're the best. You would never. That would be stupid. It's just who you grew up with. They're no more or less wise or loving or caring across the street or in the other part of the world where there are different religious views. We're all equally ignorant. To the extent we're not in this game. But then you wouldn't be loyal to them because they're not the point. Don't you defend my You wouldn't give a shit about your mum and dad. You'd give a shit about reason. That's what makes a good parent. Reason to participate in this as a relationship and way of being. Yeah, don't you challenge reason. What the fuck? You can't get into a fight over that. Just, why don't you do reason? That's sensible. I don't care what your parents or my parents or Jesus' parents said or Abraham's son's parents said. It's just understanding, dude. You still plug the blue wire into the red socket when you're building a computer. Doesn't matter what your parents think. But at a point, no matter how open and receptive to it, you have to make that jump. I am going to drop my old way of being that doesn't see the value of dreams, doesn't see the value of reading these books, doesn't do that kind of reflection, doesn't reach out and develop that kind of relationship. I'm going to let that go. At least to try it. To try this. That's the jump. That's a whole, because this on this side of the evolution is a different evolution. It's an enlightenment. It's a developmental stage. It's our goal. It's as a way of being. It's a jump. It's a whole new thing. Understanding as a way of being, love and logos, is completely different. It's milliliters to miles. And that's represented by the golden analogy. So, as we get further into this game, we should be able to, because we've been developing in the text, we've got different characters who respond to truth and rationality, like Paul way down here, and then Mark who denies Paul, and we have the Kabbalah, which takes a little bit of reason but uses it as a patch to beliefs. We've got Thomas and Thomas the voluntary celibate, twin of Jesus, seeing more about the significance of understanding as a way of being, allowing you to reach pure light and know the self, but hasn't made that jump. And we should be, at least hypothetically speaking, as a hypothesis we're going to carry, able to map all of those stages on this same continuum in a hierarchy and represent the relationships through those 3 and 4 meanologies. that might represent how much bigger this is to this, but also what kinds of movements can you make? Maybe there are certain movements that you can make. Maybe there are 3 big ones. An arithmetic, step by step, a geometrical jump, and maybe a harmonic jump. Maybe. We're going to keep that as a question as we go. But ultimately, at the end of this continuum, there's that golden mean jump. So there's a step-by-step continuum represented within the system. So in music, you have the geometric, harmonic, and arithmetic analogies representing within the same scale. Octave, perfect fifth, perfect fourth, giving you the circle of fifths. But within that system, there must be a higher golden analogy giving rise to those 3. Equally so, within our continuum of the development of belief to understanding, we should be able to represent the movements similarly with those mean analogies, but recognize there will still be a jump. There comes a point, and it's up to you. Now, the thing about being in a relationship is you can help the person. What's blocking you from the jump? Hey, a fear of not getting it right the first time? Okay. By the way, we're in a relationship, so if you do get it wrong, we're going to talk about it tomorrow. We're going to reflect on all the things, because it's better to get it wrong, because that's clues to your false beliefs. And healing your false beliefs or pathologos is kind of better. And by the way, healing those false beliefs in midwifery is the jump. You're removing your false, dissolving that. So it's okay, Mr. Mark, because that's what it means to be in the game. It's not a one-off quest, it's a journey, relationship that might even transcend this physical existence. Love and logos. And that's the golden analogy. That's important, because while we're recognizing all of these stages, all of the people that we will come across as we read this text, there might be a fundamental jump from all of them to Socrates. In other words, you can't carry any of the old with you. You can't carry any false belief about reality and any false idea of the self to know reality and to recognize and encounter the self. It's incommensurate, it's a jump. And that was the significance of the golden analogy. And by the way, in Socrates calls these the necessary numbers, the fundamental numbers needed to make these mean analogies in the masculine and feminine forms, giving rise to the golden analogy as its cause, which is needed to understand the transitions and the fundamental jumps involved in the states of mind here, these 5, and in a continuum from belief to understanding, the jump to a new way of being. Hooray! So, how are we with time? I tried to go quickly through that review because it was significant. So, in our past couple of episodes, we've been doing the dialectic thing, piecing together our questions with the right opinions or the quotes without interpretation, as we saw in the text. Read without interpretation. But the whole point of reading is applying it, just as we saw in midwifery. Takes a second to load up. There is a application. See, you make the connection between the similarities in past, between the past and the present, but you got to go out and apply it. You got to do it. You got to make a jump. You got to test it in experience. Just as understanding in time is a preparation for experiencing yourself itself. Hey, know yourself as mind. Knowledge. Oh, I'm timeless. Isn't that interesting? So any beliefs about myself and images I've been tied to are going to lose their power for a while, helping me to continue midwifery and philosophy. Go to the party. That's the symposium. Check out yourself as eternity. And equally so, what's beyond even experience? That which transcends. So, even though our last couple of episodes was a kind of review of that thing, we are recognizing it within the book itself. It's saying that's the necessary step, the dialectic. So it's worth the reviews. And in the past couple of reviews, we were reviewing, but we saw more things. So in the last 3 episodes, we ended up with 3 different models. The homogeneous one of the states of mind, the intelligibility of the logos, which is states of mind, the heterogeneous, all of the best kinds of human activities, including recognizing the significance of dreams. And then last episode, we even brought it together with a new model, analogies, giving us the golden analogy, which is central for its application as a human being. Take a jump, try it. And hey, it's a relationship. I'm going to be here tomorrow. Let me know how it goes. And if you're right into the game, then we can hook up on Discord and we can talk about it and ask questions and see why those blocks came up, which are always going to be further clues to your further development. Or dream analysis. Same thing, only dreams were going to help us have that conversation even better. Supercharges the conversation. But there is that jump, and that's the golden analogy. So today we didn't add anything new, we just reviewed it all together. I was trying to go fast so we could have time to read, but I'm just checking the clock and we're about 2 hours in. So, yeah, I think we'll call it there. And tomorrow we'll get back into reading more. Because, oh, by the way, that's cool. The end of all of this, the last couple of episodes where we've been reflecting and putting it together, what was the culminating piece? The last thing we came up with? The golden analogy. The mathematical representation of the jump. From belief to understanding, or through stages of cognition or ontology, levels of reality. And why is that significant? Because in the book, we are 38.2% of the way through, which is the golden analogy. So you can say, right, so another way of saying the golden analogy is 0.382 is to 0.618 is to 1. So I've just added another term on this direction. You can move in this direction. I think it's 2.681 or whatever. Oh yeah, it would be, because it's these two together. So 1 plus that is, so the next one in this direction would be 1 is to 1.618 as 1.6818 is to 2 point. And that's easy because it's A plus B. So I take these two and put it there, which is the Fibonacci sequence. But Fibonacci sequence is a dumbed down version where there's no incommensurate numbers. So it's 1 is to 1 is to 2. This together is 2. This together gives you the next one. 3. This together gives you the next one. 5. This together gives 8, and so on. That's the Fibonacci sequence, but it's a simplified version of the golden ratio. Just like when you do film, you get given the rule of thirds, which is a simplified version of the golden ratio as well. So going in that direction, you can continue the analogy, which is the whole point, which is learning, which is what we're saying is the Dharma successorship. As Diotima, female guru, teacher of Socrates, oracle in the higher sense, helped Socrates through the stages of love. So Socrates can help us. So this is you. But then, as you were helped by Socrates, so too can you help someone. and then so on and so on. That's the Dharma successorship, or the model of true teaching. Whereas the Pathologos is the stagnant version. It doesn't continue. It's redundant. As your parents are to you, you also, A is to B, you copy to someone else. As A is to B, so too A is to B. That's redundant. You're just doing the same thing. It's just a cycle of violence. Or, as the Jews were genocided by the Germans, so too the Jews are going to genociding the Palestinians. And that's the Abrahamic religions. As we experience suffering, so too is God our little bitch, and he is going to smite all those who smite us. We get to hurt other people. And that's what the Jewish people are saying to justify their genocide on the Palestinians. Hey, you guys got to do colonialism. Don't we have a right to genocide too? We want to hurt people too. Don't be anti-Semitic. Redundant. A is to B is A is to B. Whereas the mean analogy continues. Now that's the fun. If you see it, it's obvious. That's what they say. They always say the same thing. We've got a right to harm people the way we were harmed. We were grifted too, so we can be a grifter, says MAGA. Hey, what did Trump say when he got elected? All the rich people never pay taxes. That makes me smart. So what's he doing? He's grifting the entire nation. Stealing all their money and lying to them and hurting them. Because, hey, the other politicians got to do it. Nancy Pelosi. Hey, other politicians get to hurt through insider trading. All other corporations. Hey, other corporations advertise to manipulate people to act against their own interests. Landlords. All the other landlords raise the rent. Don't I have a right to raise the rent to you? Make you homeless to make more profit? That's the Pathologos. No appeal to principles, no appeal to reason, that the Logos, that benefits, doing unto others the same injustice done unto us. That's a redundant analogy. So I say that now because we can go in this direction. Go this way. Because we want one whole text. So if we want to break the text as a whole, or a 1, or a 100%, through the mean analogy, 61.8% of the way through could be a turning point. And we are right now, which is super, super cool and interesting, we are 38.2 of the way percent through the text. There's been a turning point in the text with the way Jesus is responding to Socrates, and there's been a turning point in our review and reading together because we've taken 3 episodes to put all the pieces together, and we've come to a huge insight: the homogeneous, the heterogeneous, and the both analogy, culminating in this, the golden analogy. So all our review and work, so thank you for joining me. I hope you've had fun, and you are having fun. Is a relationship. It's a way of being, remember, in this life and beyond. Doesn't end, timeless. In that review, we've come to the conclusion about the significance of the golden analogy that represents the jump or the highest transition from belief to understanding and through the different cognitive functions, and also the cause of the other mean analogies that unify heterogeneous and homogeneous. So the golden analogy is at the pinnacle of all of our reflections, which happened to have happened at a golden analogy section in the text. We're about 38% of the way through the text. We had this review culminating in the golden analogy, which happens to correspond to where we are in our reading. How freaking cool is that?
Wow. Wow.
I'm too pure. We're gonna engage. The more holes. Talking about a bunch of what feminists want. Don't be disgusting.
So, super cool. Hooray for us. So, we can keep these questions and puzzles in mind and hypotheses in mind in our CUSAC and our if sack in our inventory as we can continue the quest together. I hope you're having fun questing with me. And my God, this book's a banger! Isn't this book a banger? Oh, this book is such a banger! Oh, where's my stuffy? I need to squeeze it. Where's my stuffy gone? Compensate. Oh, it's a banger! It's a banger! This book is so good! This book is so good. It's a banger. Of all of the bangers, this book bangs the most. And the hardest. Amazing. So, once again, you can join on follow on Twitch and on YouTube. So you can join us when we go live and you can ask questions. You can join the Discord. There's a link below. You'll get a notification when we go live. If you want to donate to the channel and buy me a coffee, thank you so much. I appreciate it. All proceeds go towards making the stream better. I'm using a webcam, but I'm hoping to upgrade to a better camera and then maybe better audio and whatever. Making it more fun to play the game, to be a mean analogy. So, there's a link below to buy a coffee if you want to support the channel, and a link to the text that you can find below as well. And you can find all of the videos in this series on YouTube, and there's a playlist there that you can go through at your own pace. So, if you are the sort of person who has been watching this, then I'm guessing, well, I'm making more than a guess, a hypothesis that you are the sort of person on this side of the continuum. Someone who is open to understanding love and logos. So you're pretty close to there. So as you are likely that sort of person, all I can say is go for gold. Go for gold. Leap off that cliff. You've got the logos in your back pocket. That's your surfboard. Catch some waves. Make that jump. Let go of the old and be empty to embrace the new in a kind of open, free, openness, freedom, clarity, pureness. Jump into the timeless and eternal, the way of being of love and logos. Go for gold, and I'll see you in the next one.